Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Skeen. Welcome to the first ever episode of what will hopefully be a recurring show called Palmetto Purpose. I kind of had this idea several months ago in traveling around and conducting my own business in the state of South Carolina. I've met so many entrepreneurs and business leaders who are more focused on giving back to their communities and leading with purpose than just building a business and looking at numbers. I always thought that was really intriguing. And I've also noticed a byproduct of that. A lot of these people are also the same people who don't necessarily toot their own horn everywhere they go. And I saw an opportunity there, see an opportunity there to shine a light on some of these people and speak with them. That being said, I guess it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a few more. I sat down and had a really fantastic conversation with Miss Kenya Tillman. And I knew as soon as we got into that conversation that I wanted her to be my first guest on this idea that I'm going to explore and try to grow. And that's partly because of her passion for financial literacy and homebuyer education. She's not just a real estate agent, she's an entrepreneur in the Sumter area of South Carolina. And I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with her. And my goal is, by the time we're done talking, I don't just want to tell you about her why. I want you to understand a little bit of who she is and what drives her. So with that, Kenya, I really appreciate you joining me today.
It is a pleasure to
Yeah,
be able to join you today, Mark.
I'm really excited. Going back to the first conversation we had at the coffee shop in Sumter, I won't name it because I really don't know how to pronounce the name, to be honest with you. But it wasn't just that we hit it off. I kind of felt from you exactly what I'm looking for and what I'm trying to explore here, which is someone who's led by more than money and is driven with a passion to give back and serve. And I see these people in our community as having kind of servant leadership roles. So, where I'd like to start is I'd like to know a little bit about who was Kenya Tillman before real estate?
Before real estate, Kenya Tillman was that same hardworking young lady that gave all she had, no matter what she did, as it relates to work, family. I'm just that giving person in every area of my life, but hardworking, dedicated to what I'm dedicated to, reliable. But there was always something missing. When you're working somebody else's job, sometimes you're limited at what you can do and the way that you really want to do things. So that's what led me into entrepreneurship. But I'm a mother of two grown sons. I have two beautiful grandsons, now 10 and 13. And, as I stated before, that's a whole nother kind of love there. But I love working. I love being able to help people. I love being able to give back. And so, in my history of working before, I was not able to do what has always been in my heart to do. And becoming an entrepreneur made most of that possible. And so this is where I am today. I got into real estate for that reason. I have a passion for helping people and guiding them in a way that they maybe couldn't go on their own, or those that just choose to have, a level of expertise to help them.
Right, right.
And so this is where I am today.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that drive, and it's that's always been interesting to me because I think it is a specific type of person that decides to kind of branch off and go their own way. So tell me a little bit about what you were doing before. What do you remember what your first job was, and was that drive there? Or what do you think? Where do you think that drive comes from?
So I have had, and I tell this story to a lot of people, but I have had multiple jobs, throughout my lifetime. My first job, I was 9 years old. My mother and my father were regional managers of a gas station down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where I was born and raised. And my first job was bagging ice at 9 years old. I've always been, a child that always wanted to stay busy. Give me something to do. Give me something to do. And so that was my first job. From that job until I would say back in 2017, when I became an entrepreneur, I've worked Subway. I've worked the movie theater. I have worked multiple industrial plants. I have done landscaping. There are so many jobs that I have done, and I love doing all of them to a certain extent, but it was never fulfilling.
Right.
And I always knew at a very young age that I just wasn't built to work for someone the rest of my life. But of course, back then you had to have a starting point. You gotta start somewhere. You gotta crawl before you walk. And so I've always worked, but I was never fulfilled in none of the jobs that I was doing, because I always knew that my passion for helping people was greater than where I was.
Right.
And that led me to the entrepreneurship. So I have a lot of experience in a lot of different things, kind of like they say, a jack of all trades, and you master a few.
Right.
That would be me. But that's what led to my entrepreneurship.
That's awesome. I notice it's funny because it seems like there's children of parents who own businesses are told often and early in my experience that child labor laws do not apply to their children, right?
Right.
I worked for my dad at a very young age. Do you think part of that drive and that desire to strike out on your own, aside from looking for more purpose, might have come from your parents and watching what they did?
I really believe that a lot of it came from my parents, but I would give the credit to my grandmother. I always wondered why my grandmother, she always did things like make curtains and pillows and comforters, when I was growing up as a child in the early 80s. And every Saturday morning, she would come, to my house, and she would wake me up, and I would have to go with her to like the back then the Saturday and Sunday morning flea market, swap shop type things where people would have tables where they had their items for sale out there, as people walked through, looking at the different things. And I always had to go with her. And I always wondered where the entrepreneurship so much came from. And when I look back over that, I realized that it was from my grandmother, because I don't care what, she was always making something, for sale. And I would always have to assist with that. And so I give that credit to her, a little to my parents, but more so to her. She was more so the one that took chances, got out there, and okay, I'm going to see, how this is going to sell. I'm going to see how that is going to sell. Anything that she thought that she could present to the people and it was worth selling, then there you go. She's going to have it. It's going to be on that table. And so I think most of it comes from her.
That's incredible. And it's funny because I think a lot of people see someone who's an entrepreneur, and it's like the old saying, those people, all they see is the tip of the iceberg after the work is done. I think a lot of people don't realize the grind that goes along with that. And it sounds like maybe she kind of showed you not just what the benefits can be, but kind of the work that's involved with being that entrepreneurial type. Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, let's move forward a little bit, because we've talked a lot about kind of where you came from and how you got your start. And one recurring theme I keep hearing from you is you talking about your passion and looking for something different. So let's move forward a little bit to the work you do now as a realtor. And I'd love to know kind of how that lends itself to fulfilling the part that you felt like was missing earlier in your other jobs and careers. And I know you also have another business in Sumter. I believe it's a cleaning business, right?
That is correct.
I'd love to hear a little bit about how those work together and kind of how those help you kind of fulfill what you see as your bigger purpose.
Well, as far as real estate, I came from the plant Continental Tires out of Sumter. I worked there for the first 3 years of the plant coming to Sumter, and I like I said, I've always known that I was going to be a entrepreneur. But what led me into real estate was actually when I first bought my home. The realtor that I had, he was I just thought he was the best thing on this side because, I mean, I didn't know anything, about purchasing a home or
Right.
anything. And he walked me through every step. I called several times and, he always, answered. He always reassured me, not to worry about this, I'm going to go with you to that. And he was so enlightening to me. He impressed upon my spirit very, very heavy this is what I need to be doing, because he talked about as well, how he has the opportunity to help people and help those that didn't qualify to qualify, even if it wasn't that particular time that they reached out to him, but in the future. And me knowing that, I'm a helper. It just comes automatic, and not just in my business, in my everyday living. I'll stop and, if I see somebody in a wheelchair that needs a help, getting across the road, I'll even do that. It doesn't stop in my business. But he was one of my biggest determining factors. Okay, this is what I need to do outside of my passion,
Right.
For wanting to help and do it anyway. And so he said, you need to, you would be good for this. You need to, he said, the passion that you have, he said, you would be good for this. He said, you need to go to real estate school. So I didn't do it, of course, right away. I did it. It was a couple of years later. And once I did it, I was like, oh man, I love this. And so that's what got me started into real estate. I love real estate. I love being able to give out the information to the people, because when you don't know, you just don't know. Some people think, any question is, a dumb question, or either they don't know anybody that they can ask the questions, or some people just won't ask. They would rather you just give them information, pertaining to what they're interested in. And so in real estate, I've started over years ago, and I'm just getting back into it now, where, I go to churches, or set up different, group meetings, and invite people, so to speak, home buying seminars, that type thing. Wherever I can get in, I fit in, and just give the people the information, letting them know you're not obligated, to purchase. But whatever questions you have, even if you are ready, that's great today. But if you're not ready, still, we can get your questions answered, and we can put you on the right track if you're not ready, and you want to get ready. So I enjoy doing that, and putting those type of meetings. And I don't care if it's one person. Sometimes I meet with just one person. Sometimes it's two people. It's a husband and wife, or a mother and a child, or something. It doesn't matter to me, because I feel if I give the information at least to one person, that one person has the power to pass it along.
Right.
So, I'm still winning, and they're winning as well. And then they found things out that they didn't know. So that fuels my passion. As far as my cleaning business, We clean residential and commercial buildings. We've been doing that now, right at 6 years, and we cater to all different types, of people. And when I say types, I'm talking about like the disabled people. I'm talking about the seniors, those people that can't afford to pay sometimes for a service that they truly need. And so that's where we come in at. If they contact us and, I realize that they really need the service, but they don't have the funds, my company will do a clean for free, to get them back on track. Whatever it is that's needed, whether it's a discount, whether it's a free service,
Right.
we don't have a problem obliging the people.
That's
And
incredible.
that's one of the ways that we give back. If somebody refers a client to us, also we do give a portion, a referral fee for them. If the person they refer books our service,
Right.
we give back to that person that referred them to us as a thank you for referring that person to
Right.
us, whether they used us or not. And that's just our way of being able to give back, because people don't have to do anything, for you. And I realize that. And so when they do, I'm happy about it. But at the same time, I want to let them know how much I appreciate what they have done. And through that, more business comes, more referrals come. And people are just happy and excited about the service, what they get, and how we take care of the people in that regard.
That's awesome. It sounds like you had a really great experience with that realtor who helped you. And it's funny, that kind of puts in my mind, it's anyone who's been doing any kind of sales for any period of time. I won't say how old we are. Um, they, the whole landscape of what it means to be in any kind of sales has really drastically shifted from what it was, say, in the late 80s and early 90s. Back then, it was knocking down objections. It was almost combative, Cobra Kai, sweep the leg kind of techniques. And now people really are looking for more of a mentor. And it sounds like that's kind of what you aim to do with both of your businesses. I'm curious. I know you have a strong heart for financial literacy and providing people with information, not just about financial literacy, but about the benefits of home ownership and what can be, in some cases, a generational impact on these families. People who didn't grow up being taught what it's like to have equity in a home versus just paying rent every month, and all of the other benefits that can go along with that. I was wondering, is there one family you worked with or one instance you can think of that kind of drove you towards that? Was it a client that you worked with? Was it something that happened in your life? Or was it more of just a general need that you saw that you wanted to attack?
I would say what drove me to that was, in my family, I don't know but one person, and that was a great aunt of mine, that actually owned a home. My grandmother didn't own a home, and she was an entrepreneur. My parents didn't own a home. They rented, their whole lives. And a lot of my, other family members, cousins and extended family, nobody owned a home. And so that was one of the reasons, for me being so passionate about it, because
You lived that, right?
I lived
Yeah.
that. I lived that. And I was able to own my own home, So I was the first, actually, of my peers to own my home. And that was like everything. Not to mention that also you asked the question, had I worked with a couple, or with someone that didn't own a home at the time? I did. I have worked with a couple that there was no home ownership in their family. And it started out kind of rocky because, they had some credit challenges in the beginning. But I mean, I stuck and I stayed and I kept encouraging them. And, I would always, keep check on them and different things of that nature. And of course, we're going to do it. We're going to do this. So I didn't have to, like pin them down or anything, but they just needed that extra encouragement for them to keep on going in order to get prepared to purchase their home. And I walk with them every step of the way. And in about 4 months, we were ready. We were ready. I
That's
say
awesome.
we because it was a process with me along with them as well. Even though I wasn't purchasing the home, I was their agent. But we were ready. And that was, I mean, it just does my heart so good considering where they came from as far as renting and
Right.
being able to be, homeowners. And I was a part of that.
That's really encouraging, and it's got to feel good for them to feel like they're just not having a transactional relationship with someone they're working with, but they're being brought into a team that's going to help them get to where they want to be.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
awesome.
absolutely.
So I know a lot of times when people are looking at making a home purchase, particularly if it's their first one, and if they don't have, a mom and a dad who've been through this before to kind of help guide them along the way, that they can be really apprehensive. So I'm curious, when someone sits across the table from you for the first time, what's your hope that they walk away with? Like, is it, a feeling? Is it information? Is it a little bit of both?
So when I sit across the table with my clients, I'm in hopes that they will get their questions answered because most times they have, especially if they're a first time home buyer, they have a lot of questions. And I'm hoping that I can answer their questions concerning the home buying process. And if it's something I can't answer, then, I tell them, hold on, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to find out for you. Either way, the question gets answered. So me in hopes of them getting the information is great. But I like to also come across as we are a team. You're not here, by yourself to go through this process alone. I'm here for you. And I want them to feel comfortable talking with me and working with me. I want us to build a rapport, so that it's easy. It makes it easy, not only for me, but more so for them, so that we can work together. They will feel comfortable working with me. When something comes up, we can tackle that together and I can work on their behalf. And so I'm in hopes that they get all the information that they need, they get their questions answered, and in the end, they get their home.
Right. That's perfect. So I think, especially for first-time home buyers, a lot of the time, when they first jump in, again, especially if they don't have family that's never owned a home before, when they start hearing all these terms and start kind of trying to understand how the process works, I bet it's like drinking from a fire hose, or trying to for them for a while, right? So I'm wondering, sometimes do you have to tell them it's okay to not know what even questions you want to ask yet?
That is true. And a lot of times, depending on the process where we are, in the home buying process, and certain things come up, I do tell them that, it's okay that, you may not understand this. And in some instances, you don't have to understand this right now. But I do still keep it open enough where they get some type of clarity, some type of peace,
Right.
so that they don't take it home and say, okay, well, I didn't understand that. I didn't. So I still try to provide that type of peace for them.
Well, that may be the biggest part of it sometimes, right? Is just getting people comfortable with the idea that they're going to walk through this very complicated transaction, and they have to be able to place a lot of trust in you
Right.
because they don't, you know, I'm sure it's the same when they look at contracts, and you've been trained to read contracts and go through them and know what everything means, and they're kind of leaning on you because honestly, regular people read these contracts and it may as well be Latin, right? That's pretty incredible.
Yes.
What's one misconception about the real estate business or realtors in general that you think people might have that you'd like to clear up?
I think one of the biggest things that I would like to clear up is a lot of times the clients want you to be their realtor, their lender, their lawyer. you know, um, they want us to take on everything, everybody's job. And sometimes for some people you can't like explain that to them enough, because no, you should know this is what you do, is what they say. But I think that is one of the biggest problems, people getting the roles in the transaction mixed up, and because a lot of times I have to tell them, well, I'm not the lender, I can't decide how much house you can afford to buy.
Right.
That's beyond my scope. That's out of my area. Only after you're told, you're pre-approved and what your amount is, then I go to work pretty much for you. So that is one of the biggest things that I've experienced, and know a lot of other realtors have experienced as well. We can't talk about that financial part. When it comes to that, we can't give you the legal or tell you what to do. That's an attorney's area. But that's one of the biggest things that I run into.
It sounds like you might spend a lot of time trying to keep people from going to the butcher to get a haircut.
Right. That part. Yes, but that is one of the biggest.
That's awesome. So, when you think about the families that you've worked with in the past, or maybe that you're working with now in the Sumter area, what does that generational impact wind up looking like if you can look 10, 20 years down the road when the children of your clients are sitting in the shade of the trees that you help plant in the community? What does that look like? Is there some kind of broad impact that you think can be made by providing the financial literacy and the home buyer education? Just give me an idea. If you could just snap your fingers and make a dream come true and look down the road 15 or 20 years, what would that look like?
I would like for the financial literacy part, real estate, the home buying seminar, all of that wrapped up in one, to become well known, as it relates to me or whomever I'm working with, being able to educate the people. I do know that everything is not taught. I was told, and from experience, some things are caught instead of taught. And so I believe that 15 years down the line that we will have made a very large impact on educating people, those that we're working with now. And if we're not actually doing the education portion with their children, they can pass that along, and their children would become more knowledgeable about the home buying process and be interested in it as their parents and their aunts and uncles get into that. But being able to provide the information, I believe that it's going to be very, very large within the next 20 30 years, because I definitely plan on, getting out here, talking to more people, going more places, and meeting new people, and all of that. But I believe that it's going to be out of this world as far as being able to help the people, inform the people, because more information allows the people to make better decisions.
Right.
And so if they know, then, it's going to be much, much better for the people, and then they will then reach back to those that was able to mentor them, or those that were able to give the information out, get their questions answered, and those that network with other people that, in other areas of expertise, they can refer them to. So in 15 or 20 years, I'm looking for this thing to be big. I'm looking to have helped a whole lot of people. And in helping people, the people can begin helping people. It's a never ending
It almost has an
cycle.
exponential impact at that point.
Yes.
It's almost like you're the town crier, or kind of evangelizing, hey, there are opportunities available, and it all starts with information and education, so you kind of know what to do next. Right?
Absolutely.
Speaking of evangelizing, I know you had shared with me that faith is a big part of your life and your business all the way around. I'm curious, how does that impact and guide you in the decisions you make in your business, and how you handle things with clients and so on?
Well, looking back over my life and all that I have endured, my faith has kept me in a place where I know I need to be, and in other places that I wouldn't have made it if I had gone there.
Right.
So, in my whole life, my business life, my faith is the number one thing. I only know to trust, believe, look up, and to always pray about everything. And I hadn't been steered wrong yet. As a matter of fact, I've been leaping and leaping and leaping. So that's definitely what works for me.
Yeah. That's you mentioned during the hard times, and I know we had again, when we met a couple of weeks ago, we had a pretty frank discussion. We've both been through hard times, and we both kind of are on the same page that there's a lot of growth that can happen there. When was the hardest season for you? Did you ever feel like you might quit?
Well, you mean in the business, or are you talking about any time in my
Yeah,
life?
just in general, as it relates to the business and what you're working on in your purpose.
Well, in the beginning, when I set out to become an entrepreneur, you know, like I said, I've always known I was supposed to, work for myself. But at the same time, I didn't realize that, okay, as many hours as you were putting in for someone else, with this process and what I had chose to do as a career, the real estate and the other things that I was doing at the time, I didn't realize, although I knew, I just didn't realize that I had to put that same time over here that I did over there. And over here now, it was pretty much more important, because on a job, I know I'm going to work 40 hours or 50 hours. I'm going to get paid such and such amount. But when you become an entrepreneur, if you don't work, I mean, you don't get paid.
Right.
You have to be more disciplined in an entrepreneurship place, I say, versus on a job working for someone. And so in the beginning, trying to branch out, become an entrepreneur and market myself and get my name out there and all of that stuff, it was really, really hard. I didn't have a paycheck to rely on because I no longer had a clock in job. And I'm going to say the first 3 years of me becoming an entrepreneur was really, really hard. It was really hard because I was used to that paycheck. on the clock. And now, if I don't, sell a house, if I don't write an application, those were things I was doing back then. I don't make any money. And then, the
Right.
bills are steady coming. So I got to the place where I just can't do this. I'm just going to go back and get a job. And, this is not for me. I want the end result, but I don't want to go through the process.
Well, and the thing that I find is a recurring theme for entrepreneurs, and something we can share with people who maybe haven't done it. You can spend, in 1 month, you can go from in 1 month. What am I saying? In 1 week, you can go from Monday and Tuesday feeling like you're on top of the world and you've got everything managed and you're going to be fine to Wednesday and Thursday feeling like you can't do enough and everything's going to crash and burn, right?
That is true.
So there's that. And then on top of that, I know I hear entrepreneurial type people often say, the demands for my time far exceed the supply right now. How do you manage that?
Now I can say it is much easier to manage that, because before I was pretty much a one-man island almost. But over the years, I've partnered with some other people that kind of keep my arms lifted. They take that some of that pressure off of me, where it's not me having to have my hands in everything, on everything, all at the same time anymore. So I manage that very well now with help.
Yeah. A team is important, and it's funny because I think a lot of times we need people to give us the same type of support that we give our clients, just in different ways.
Absolutely.
Right. That's really awesome. Success in real estate, and this is something that we also talked about when we initially met, but a lot of people measure their success in volume or units. They seem to be intently focused on the numbers, and some of those people are very successful and good for them, not detracting from that. But one thing that we kept discussing was we seem to have the same belief that success really comes from focusing on the people and not the numbers. Tell me a little bit about what success looks like for you, particularly, let's say, over the next half of this year. Would you measure that in the number of families you want to help, or the number of people that you can help educate? Just an idea of what that would look like for you.
Success for me is always geared toward the people. We, like you said, we measure our success in, a lot of times the amount of money we make, per se. But for me, and I'm not saying that's not important, because, of course we wouldn't be doing a lot of things that we do if money wasn't important. But for me, it is educating more families, touching more families. And I do believe that that is the biggest for me, because the more people you help, the more people are educated, the more people will reach back out and remember you. And that's important. And if they don't have a use for you right now, they will still remember you and refer you to somebody who they know that needs your services. And that right there is everything, because, all it takes is one person that knows 200 people, to get you in the door, out the door, and be able to help however many people comes from that, not to mention more than one person. So for me, the success is giving the information, being able to help people, assist them in any way, of course, that I'm needed. And then I believe once I do that, the money will come.
Yeah. Have you ever had a client that you had a hard time inspiring? Because it sounds to me like you're really good at this. And I'm just wondering, have you ever had a client that was Eeyore, well, I don't know if we can do that, and I don't know if this is going to work for me. Have you ever had someone like that?
I've had a few clients like that.
How do you approach that?
And I'm always very positive and encouraging, and I quickly stop them if they say, well, I don't know if I'm gonna be able, or I say, hold, wait a minute, just wait a minute, wait a minute.
Right.
Why do you think you're unable to do this? And then they tell me whatever their reason is, and I say, no, 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 So I'm always encouraging them. I'm letting them know that this is not a deal breaker. You think it is, but it's not. We can get around this. This is going to work.
Right.
I just need you to work with me, and then we'll make it work.
Everybody pulling the cart in the same direction. It also sounds like you do a good job of asking the questions. So basically what you're telling them is, don't let your feelings run what happens next. If you want to progress, let's sit down and look at the steps that need to be taken, and kind of figure out what's next. It's kind of like the old saying that the easiest way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time, right?
Exactly.
And sometimes if people start, they look at the whole entire process, it can seem overwhelming.
Yes.
So I think a lot of times you're absolutely right. Breaking it down into those next steps and finding out what it is that they feel that's holding them back
Yes.
is probably the best thing to do.
Yes.
So let's say that there's someone listening to our conversation or watching our conversation, and they're starting to feel like they could be the first person in their family to be a homeowner. And they're trying to find someone that they can trust and lean on. What would you want them to know about Kenya Tillman and working with you? What does that look like?
I would want them to first know that I'm dedicated to what I do. My life is of service to people. It's just, it is what it is. And I wouldn't have any problem walking with anyone every step of the way, in doing, whatever needs to be done, reassuring them, encouraging them, so that we could, make their dream come true.
That's awesome.
I'm here for it from beginning to end.
That's great. Never give up. Never quit.
Never
right?
give up.
So what do you see right now? And I know you're not captive to the Sumter market.
Right.
You work the entire state.
Mm-hmm.
But in your area that you generally focus on there, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing going on and where you think there are opportunities for people.
Opportunities as in home buying.
Right.
Sumter is a great city. Let me first start out by saying that. And it is constantly growing.
I can second that. For anybody who hasn't seen Sumter, I myself returned to Sumter in, I guess, 2017 for the first time in probably 15 years or so. And I was blown away.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple reports where they're listing that as one of the coolest little fastest growing areas in South Carolina. And just over the last couple of years, they've refurbished that golf course.
Yes.
And they've got the brewery that went up.
Yes.
And if you haven't seen Sumter since the early 2000s or the late 90s, it's a whole different game now.
Oh, yes, it is. And it is constantly growing, especially because of the military. The people coming in and leaving out, they're building more homes, more single family homes. They're doing the apartment complexes, of course, but we want to go from renters to buyers. But Sumter is really, really moving up. It's moving up. It's a great place to live, a great place to have a business, to network with people. And from the way it is today, I believe in the next 5 years, they will have done even the more, because they're steady building things and developing and that type thing. So I believe it's a city to definitely look into, as far as the home buying process. And you can find, what you're looking for.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but in South Carolina, everyone knows we have a ton of people moving into this state right
Mm-hmm.
now, and all of the good and bad that goes along with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We hear people often, especially over just the last couple of months, talking about this swing back to it being a little bit more of a buyer's market.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, at least, anecdotal evidence from what I've seen, it looks to me like Sumter's kind of leading the way with that in that, and I don't know if it's because of the amount of new construction that's going on,
Mm-hmm.
but I see a lot of what I would consider to be today entry level homes on the market and available, and some of them are sitting out there for more than what we, the 30, 60 days that we'd normally expect. Are you seeing that? And do you think that's a good opportunity for first time home buyers?
I am seeing that, but I do think it is a great opportunity for the first time home buyers, because they have a lot of, like you said, new construction. Um, but it gives the people an opportunity to be able to search, to have more homes to choose from, pretty much. And it's always great because they have so many different ways now that help first time home buyers to be able to purchase, their first home. So as it relates to the buyers, that is a good thing, because in the past it's been, you look at this at 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock somebody's bought it. So that would be really to their advantage, right now.
Right. The old adage, if you sleep on it, you might never sleep in it, right?
Right. Ex-
I love that.
exactly.
So, we've talked a lot about your purpose, your drive, the way you have this passion for giving back. Let's pivot just a little bit. What does Kenya do for fun?
So Kenya loves to travel. She loves to travel. I love to eat, try different restaurants, different foods. That's actually one of the biggest reasons why I travel, because I'm always going to different restaurants.
It sounds like you and I could go on a trip together.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing is where's the best place to
Where's
eat
the
here?
food? Where's
Yeah.
the food? So I love doing that. I love shooting pool.
Really?
Yes,
Have you ever done it competitively?
I used to do it competitively, for money years ago. Years ago, and then I got away from it. And no, I only play for fun now. But I love shooting pool. I love bowling, and I'm not a great bowler, but I just love to do it.
Right.
And I love miniature golf. I love
Really?
it. I love to read. I love to listen to music. I love, of course, time with my family. I spend a lot of time with my family. But there's a lot of things that I'm doing, when I'm able to do it,
Right.
having fun. Because
That's awesome.
definitely that's a part. You got to get some fun in there. All work and no play makes a dull girl.
Absolutely. So you mentioned books. What's is there a book that you've read in the last year that really impacted your view of things or the way you process or work things, particularly as it relates to your business?
Not in the last year.
Well, let's go back further. Just any book.
I read, I forget the name of it. It's by Les Brown, but it was a very motivating book. Forgot the title of it, but it was a very motivating book, as it relates to business. He's always talking about business and financial things, and getting everything in order. And that by far was one of my favorite books pertaining to that. But of course, I read some thrillers, and
Right.
but mainly the things that I read is going to be something that is going to teach me something, as it relates to business, a better way to do things, or
Right.
something to that effect.
Well, and so you brought up food. Do you also like to cook, and what's your favorite type of food?
Now, I love to cook, which I don't do a lot of cooking these days. But I love to cook. I don't just have one favorite food. There are so many. Like I love baked mac and cheese. I love like collard greens or any type of vegetable. I'm a vegetable person. I love, a lot of the things that I probably shouldn't love, but I love it because most of it I grew up on it. Soul food, like I said, mac and cheese, collards, like lima beans and things of that nature. I love it. For a quick, meal or snack, I love a good sub, good slice of pizza, to make it simple, a good taco, so there are a number of things.
That's awesome. You mentioned your sons. What does awesome family time look like for you?
So awesome family time for me is just me, my sons, my grandsons, my mom, a couple of friends over, that are not really friends. They're actually family members now, sitting at a table, playing a game of spades, or we pull out the checkerboard, or we play bingo, and we give gifts to one another for those that win. That's my perfect time.
Awesome. Well, I think we're about done with our time, but what I'd like to do is just do a couple of rapid fire, not rush through it rapid fire, but just a couple of questions that I wanted to get to that we'll kind of go through kind of briefly here. And these are more just, again, not about business, but just to get to know you a little bit more. Tell me something you're grateful for today.
Life.
Every day, right?
Productive life.
Being on the right side of the dirt. I like that.
Yes.
What's one habit that keeps you grounded?
Consistency.
Discipline, right?
Discipline.
We heard that early on with watching your grandmother and kind of embracing the grind of what it means to be an entrepreneur. Yes. Who believed in you before you believed in yourself?
I can't say. I can't call anybody name that did.
Yeah.
Because when I started, I was alone.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
And I think that kind of makes where the place you've reached even that much more impressive, right?
Yeah.
And then finally, tell me something good that you're going to do for yourself today.
So today, when I get back to Sumter, I'm going to go to the Jamaican restaurant, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to have me a nice plate of pea rice with cabbage and some oxtails and gravy. I'm going to treat myself today.
A nice meal. That's a good thing you can do for yourself always. Well, Kenya, thanks so much for sitting down with me. I really appreciate you sharing all of this. I hope, again, that people who watch and or listen to this get an opportunity to know a little bit more about who you are and what drives you to do what you do. Before we wrap up, take a second and give everyone your contact info. Let them know the best way to get in touch with you and how to be reached.
The best way to contact me, my number is 356-3290. You can follow me on my Instagram or Facebook page, Kenya Danielle. You can also email me at you can also email me at born, BRN, the number 2, the letter B, the word saved at gmail.com for any information that you may need. You can always call me and reach out to me at any time, and I will be happy to answer any questions or work with you in any way.
Awesome. And that's the contact information for both of your businesses as a realtor and for your cleaning business. Is that right?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Love talking to you. Hope we get to meet up again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. We hope to be back with another episode real soon.